Hello everybody and welcome to Mr. Stansfield's education videos. Today we're going to be actually taking a look at and maybe sort of responding to the Phlearn video on making selections. And with that video goes over a lot of different ways to make selections, and it's a great way to sort of explore that making selections, kind of going through each of the ways that you either could add to a selection or create a selection, but there's no sort of actionable item at the end of what your file should look like. Selections are sort of infinitely kind of complicated or very, very simple. And you can use a selection in a lot of different ways in Photoshop. For this project, for my classes, and I think that this is just a helpful way to look at what your final file should look like when you turn it in. So let's jump into this. After you watch that video, here's what I would like to see turned in for my classes. So you start with this background layer here. This is the file. You can use the same file that they use in the Phlearn video. And I haven't labeled these, so let me just label this really quickly. So this is eyes, and I would love for you to also label your layers here in the way that I am. This is background. This is lips. This is labeled with the text, and then here is a, curves. One actually is fine, so curves with text layer mask, LM. Let's try that, okay? The more clear you can be with your layers, the better your final file will be. So here's, if we turn all of our layers on, here's what we get, but let's go through it one thing at a time. The first thing that I have here is a color layer. It's a curves layer, and I'm using a selection to create the layer mask to create a different color eye. And this is going to be a curves layer here. Okay, so using a selection to select the eyes, using the in the way that he goes over in the video, I want to see a layer here, label it with the eyes text here. The next thing is, what I want you to do for this background layer here, use the color range selection tool, and then refine the selection using the skills that he goes over in the video to change the background color, okay? And specifically this navy background, right? So I don't need you to worry about this sort of lighter blue here, but this sort of navy color here. Change this background. And I want you to be really mindful of the way that the color connects to the rest of the figure. You want a really clean adjustment. You want it to go all the way around here. You want that adjustment to fully change this blue color and not affect anything that's going on here. So you're going to have to modify your layer mask, you're going to have to modify your selection, and you're going to have to kind of fine tune that a little bit using the skills that he goes over in the video. But that's going to be one of the things that I want to see is a background color change. The color range is probably a good place to start, but actually you could use any of the skills, any of the selection skills that goes over in the video, all right? Like he does in the video, I think this is probably a really easy one to do here with the lips. Use a color fill layer with a layer mask, and you can change the color of the color fill after you make the selection. You can modify the selection. You can use a paintbrush tool after you've kind of made the layer mask here to change the color of the lips. Try to get it to look somewhat realistic. Try to get an accurate sort of color there. Now this layer here, this Mr. Stansfield text layer, the layer that he uses in the video, he types in selections are great. In this case, I want you to put your name, first and last name here, on somewhere on the image. It can be up here, it doesn't really matter. And then make a selection from the text, turn the eyeball off, and create a new layer. In this case, I used a curves layer, and I think that's fine, okay? And you could, if you wanted to, you could actually move this text anywhere in the image because you have the layer mask here. You can actually move this around. So this is what I want to see. I want to see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 layers. Your text layer should be here, but invisible. You should have your name created via selection on a layer mask on a curves layer somewhere in the image, change the color of the eyes and the lips and the background using selections and layer masks. Okay, so this is what your final file is going to look like. And I'm not going to go over exactly step by step how to do that. I think you have to sort of watch the video, maybe even take some notes, process the information, and then figure out how to get this final product. And I'll include a screenshot of this in my notes for you so that you can see these layers. You can just have a quick reference for this. But this is what I want you to turn in for the selections Phlearn project.